Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tips and Tricks for How to Look Good Naked and Why You Should Love Yourself Even If You Don't. I'm Jo Tierney, and I'm here with Amber Riley, my co-host. And hi, everybody. Welcome. I don't know if we have any viewers, but hi, welcome to you, Amber. So last week we had some technical difficulties. We were just coming out of the gate, and I think we're more prepared today, and hopefully we're not going to have any technical difficulties. So I think, Amber's going to jump in to let her take over the mic and talk about what we're going to do with step 2 of the program. Last week we talked about breathing. This week she's going to talk about step 2, which is hydration. I'm going to let her evolve into that. And then the second piece, and of course, we're both going to speak to all points, but the second piece is and why you should love yourself if you don't. And I have some things I want to talk about in that regard. So why don't you say hello, Amber, and take it away.
Hi, everybody. So our second step in the 7 steps is hydration, which is pretty critical. And when I say hydration, I'm not talking about tea or soda or juices. I'm talking about pure, good old-fashioned water. So there's I have about 6 or 7 tips as far as how drinking more water is going to help aid in the weight loss and just your overall health, your energy and everything. So the first is that water is a natural appetite suppressant. So when we eat food, our stomach fills up and it sends our brain a signal that we're full. But what if we would do is drink a glass of water before we eat that food, then it fills up the space and it signals to our brain that we're fuller faster. So we don't generally consume as much food. A person generally sometimes will think that they're hungry, and sometimes it's just thirst. Like our brain sends us mixed signals. So I encourage everybody to drink just an 8-ounce glass of water before you eat a meal, and it will cut down on the amount of calories that you're consuming. And then water actually increases your calorie burn. So especially cold water. So when you drink cold water, your body has to speed up your metabolism to warm the water up so that it can digest it. So we're actually burning more calories when we're drinking cold water. It's not required. Just drinking water, period, is going to burn more calories. And then the ultimate, though, that I think everybody should know this, but we tend to forget it when we're drinking our tea and our lemonade, is that water helps to remove waste from the body. So every cell in our body has the toxins removed by water. We're made of 76% water. So it just makes natural sense that in order for all of our cells and our organs to work properly, that we are hydrating it with enough water. So water helps the kidneys to filter out the waste and the organs so that we can keep the electrolytes from our food and our drink. When we are dehydrated, our kidneys will retain water. So then that gives us that feeling of being bloated, which can add inches to our waistline. And it's also a very miserable feeling.
I can attest to that. I'm on vacation. Haven't been drinking as much water as I typically do. And of course, on vacation, you're typically eating a little bit more. So really, I'm going to bed feeling, just not great. At the time you think it's great. And, I'm here with 20 people. So there's so much food. That's things that I wouldn't typically, I would be more controlled. I'll say that. Of course, I enjoy all of it. But yeah, I've been feeling bloated, and I wake up bloated. And I mean, you go to bed bloated and you wake up bloated. It's really hard to digest that, particularly when you're not drinking water.
Yeah. And you know what? I kind of believe that we should live more of like a flexitarian lifestyle. So not necessarily adhere to this very strict diet, because when you're on vacation, you should enjoy life. But to combat those extra foods and those extra calories, if we would just drink more water, it'll actually help our bodies burn more calories and we won't feel those bloated. Now, I'm not saying that when you're drinking foods that or eating foods that you're not normally eating, your digestive system is going to be shock and awe because it's not used to consuming those things. But the easiest way to combat that is just drink more water.
And it also keeps you full. If you're full, then you're going to be less likely to go ahead and choke down all that additional food.
I also would caution people, don't drink a lot of water while you're eating, because it tends to break down the nutrients and we don't consume the actual vitamins and the minerals from the food that we're eating. So it's not that you can't drink anything, but just don't be chugging water throughout your whole meal.
Okay, so we actually have a great question. Well, first I want to shout out Brandon and Justin for saying hello and joining us. So yeah, so I agree with that. I agree with the drink half your body weight in water daily, to at least to start out. I think that that's a great starting point. So what are your thoughts on that?
So as far as how much water, absolutely at a bare minimum, half your body weight in water, bare minimum. I encourage people to aim for 3 liters, which is about 91 ounces. A gallon's great, but there's a couple of factors that determine how much water you need. So it's what is your activity level? You know, if you're outside in the heat, then you're going to need to consume more water. Your age, your body size, how much sun exposure that you're getting, the humidity, and then just your overall health status. The more unhealthy you are, believe it or not, the more water that you need.
So Tim Fielder also has a great question, and I'm torn on this as well. He's saying, what are our thoughts on seltzer water? And there are other types of water as well, flavored waters, electrolyte water. What do you think about those things?
So I'm not well versed on seltzer water as far as the ingredients in there. The flavored waters, I caution people, because what people don't realize is that is sugar that is being added into that water. And although it might not say sugar under the ingredients, sugar comes in about 50 different names. So if it's flavored, chances are it's got some added sugar. And if we're trying to be more healthy with the water, we don't really need the extra the added sugar. So what I have done recently is I cut up cucumbers and let it sit in a water pitcher, and then I drink that. So it gives it that little extra taste, because sometimes we just get tired of drinking plain old water and we want to add some flavoring to it. So I would encourage you to add like real fruit that gives you that fruity taste that you're going to get from those flavored waters. Just add the real fruit or cucumbers, something like that. I also drink lemon water in the morning because it detoxifies your liver and your kidneys. So it kind of helps get rid of anything that the body wasn't able to get rid of during your sleep.
Some seltzer, I'm sorry. I was going to say there have been some seltzer waters that have been touted as being a class above the rest and safe for chemical-free and sugar-free. LaCroix is one of those, although I'm sure there are many generic brands that probably mimic that as well. I think seltzer water in whole, I've looked at it before, and I think it's probably a safe bet. You do have to factor in the carbonation, and that doesn't always agree with everybody. But I think that our suggestion probably is to look at the labels and see what you have on there. And
as
then,
far as what about Gatorade, I would shy away from Gatorade, because even the Gatorade Zero, which I've gotten a couple times, it's still got your sugar products in there. It doesn't give you any carbs necessarily or any sugars listed in the label, but it's still got sugars in there to flavor it. So I would caution against Gatorade. As far as electrolytes, which is what Gatorade is touted for having, you got to be really, really careful, because everybody likes to fortify their drinks with electrolytes, or that's what they say, but it's not really giving you the electrolytes that are going to make your body feel good. It's actually generally going to make you more dehydrated, because you're consuming these extra toxic chemicals that are just not healthy for your body. So I'd caution you on that. If you just want a break from the regular plain old water, I get that. But in general, if you're extra thirsty, stay away from the Gatorades and the sugar-laden added waters.
and then Tim is saying he never touches anything that says zero sugar. They're not as good as they say. And there are many studies that suggest that that real sugar is a better benefit and much less. And of course, we're not talking sugars in a soft drink, but if you're talking a small amount of sugar, it's typically better to go with real sugar as opposed to the artificial sweeteners.
I agree.
Oh,
I agree.
yeah, I agree. And then
Diet Cola, no, I would stay away from that. I would totally stay away from the Diet Cola. I'm not a big fan of sodas in general, so I do understand the argument that regular soda is better for you than diet soda. I guess when it comes down to it, it's what are you trying to get out of it? If you're just wanting that carbonated taste, diet soda is not going to wreck your waistline like regular soda is. But I think when the people were talking about to eliminate the diet soda, it's because people were thinking that because it has 0 calories and it doesn't hurt your waistline, that we can just drink as much of it as we want. And that's just not the case. So it's not that you have to eliminate it totally. I would just use it as a treat.
I agree. And I think that there are treats that are, they're also wasted calories. I mean, a regular soda, I believe one can has 140 calories. I'd
And about
rather have
30 grams of sugar.
Right. I'd rather have an orange or
Right.
a piece of watermelon or something to benefit that. Justin agrees with us. He's saying stay away from sugar and soda, and I think that's great advice. And especially, that's great that Justin's just 18 and he recognizes that. He's also saying wine is bad for adults. But of course, we're not saying anything is bad. We're just saying everything should be consumed in moderation. So Brandon has another question. What about add-ons into the water like Crystal Light? There are a lot of things like that now, and I have them sometimes, the water drops. And again, I think that there's chemicals in those products. There are artificial sweeteners. There are very different schools of thought on it. I think they're fine in moderation. I think anything is good in moderation. What do you think?
My theory is that if you are trying to switch over to consuming more water and you just need something to give it that taste, then go for Crystal Light. Go for anything that's not going to give you all those added sugars, that's just going to flavor the water so that because water's an acquired taste. Let's be real. It's not something that everybody just enjoys. It's an acquired taste. So if you're just trying to get used to it, then yeah, go for something like that. Absolutely. It's definitely better than the pre-made flavored waters. Definitely better.
I agree. And Justin agrees with us again. Moderation is key in life and in health. And that's absolutely true. All right. So I'm going to hand the mic back over to you.
Okay, so water is also required to burn fat. What people don't realize is it is a necessity. So our body can't metabolize the stored fats that we already have without the water, because when we're eliminating fat, we're eliminating a toxin. And the only way to eliminate toxins is through water. So if you want to burn that extra fat instead of your muscle or anything, we've got to have more water. It's just paramount.
Now, can I ask you this, Amber?
Mm-hmm.
Is there ever a time when we can have too much water?
Yes, but it's generally pretty difficult to consume more water than, to overdose on water, basically. Yes, that is possible. And now there are people that have health limitations. So my mom's best friend has a lot of health problems. And I recently went to the kidney doctor with her because he was telling her she could only have 60 ounces of water a day. And I'm like, that just blows my mind. And the reason for that is because her kidneys are not working properly. It actually is holding on to water. So she's retaining water. Not on top of that, she's on a water pill as well. So there are rare cases when you need to limit your water intake, but in general, it can be pretty difficult. Now, I would caution some people, like there's a saying where you need to get all your water in by a certain amount of time so that you're not up in the middle of the night. Sometimes it's hard for our bodies to digest a large amount of water at one time. But if you're spacing that out throughout the day, you should not have any problems. But if you start to feel bloated from the amount of water, then that's your signal, your cue that you might be consuming too much.
So I think that brings up, I want to bring up Tim's point, but I also I think that this is something we should always, preface our shows with. Amber and I aren't doctors. And before you follow, this is just our opinions, and it's not advice. It's things that we adhere to, and we don't want it to take the place of any medical guidance. So if you are tuning in and you have a question about anything that we're discussing, please consult your medical professionals, because we are not medical professionals. But I want to bring up Tim's point, and this is something that's very problematic, I think, for teens. The water drinking competitions like TikTok challenges, they really are detrimental. And since we have Justin, who is 18 and a teenager, I mean, that's something to bring up. We do have younger viewers, and peer pressure in any regard in these challenges. There are so many of them. They're just foolish. I don't want to.
I have not even aware of these water drinking competitions. What is that about?
So they drink so much water in a certain time period, and they do other things like cinnamon. They take cinnamon, and then the cinnamon has actually been ingested into some of the participants' lungs, and they've had serious lung complications. So it's always a trend. These young people put out a new challenge, and I don't know how current the water challenge is, but I have heard of it, and it's almost like I forgot the kid's name there. He's not even a kid anymore. Who does the hot dog eating
Oh my
challenge
God.
on July
Trust me.
4th. I totally, Joey Chestnut. So it's similar to that. You're trying to drink as much water as you can in a specified time period. And it's really, could be detrimental. And that there is a case, that could be an instance where you have water intoxication. So we certainly agree with you there, Tim.
I wanted to speak to Brandon's. Can you lose weight by drinking water, eating better without working out? Yes, you can, but you're going to hit a plateau. So any new thing that we try, such as eating healthy, drinking water, it's going to work temporarily, but our bodies are adaptation machines. So it's going to adapt to whatever you're consistently providing it to. So once it has burned off all the calories that it can from just eating healthy and drinking water, you will reach a plateau. So if you want to exceed that plateau, working out is going to be critical. And I actually don't mean so much cardio as I mean some form of resistance training. Because the major critical role in when we're trying to lose weight is we need to gain muscle mass. Muscle burns fat every single second of every single day, including while you sleep. So 1 pound of fat burns 1 calorie an hour, where 1 pound of muscle burns 10 calories an hour. So when you're working out, it's not so much that we want to just burn calories in cardio. We want to do something because let's say you work out for 30 minutes to an hour. What are you doing the other 23 hours of the day to help your body lose weight? You might get a 20 or 30-minute afterburn, which means if you're doing a hardcore cardio, you're going to burn just as many calories in that afterburn as you are while you're doing it. But you still have 23 hours left in the day. And the only other thing to combat that is to build more muscle.
So let me ask you this, Amber. So is that different for somebody who has to lose 5 pounds as to somebody who has to lose 50? If there's a great discrepancy in the amount of weight that you have to lose, do they have to incorporate some type of cardio to get them where they want to be?
Yes and no. Yes and no. So for example, when I was training to compete in my first figure competition, I did both resistance and cardio training because I had like a 3-month window to lose 40% of my body fat. So I was going to do the maximum that I could during that specified period of time to lose the weight. Now when I'm training, I actually do very little cardio. I might do a couple 2 to 3 minute burst of cardio in between weight training sets. But I have found that the most effective thing as far as losing weight is the resistance training. And if you're doing resistance training intense enough, your heart rate is going to get up there just equally as much as when you're doing cardio. So, in my opinion, resistance training is like killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
So Tim is saying he knows someone who counted their calories and lost 40 pounds without working out. And that's true, but it probably took a much longer period of time.
Let me address the whole calorie thing. Okay. So, first of all, we've only been using calories as a metric for nutrition in the past 100 years. Okay. The calorie myth came from a Dr. Lulu Hunt Peters, who wrote a book in the 1900s that sold 2 million copies, which is about equivalent to about 20 million copies today, which means everybody and their grandmother had this book. And what she's touted is she could eat whatever she wanted as long as she stayed at 1,200 calories. So she could eat cake and pasta as long as she stayed under 1,200 calories. Ironically, this is a doctor who battled her weight her entire life. But nobody stopped to look at that when she published this book. Everybody just adopted it. So we've actually only been using calories as a metric for the last 100 years. Before that, it was actually introduced in physics and science before it was nutrition. Not only that, but when we originally started using calorie as a metric, they used this barometer in this sophisticated scientific device where they put the food in this little device and then surrounded that by another and then burned it, heated it up to figure out how many calories was actually in a food. They're not using that same device anymore. They're just going off like a rough formula. So calories isn't necessarily your best gauge. If you're really, really wanting to lose weight, you need to look at the grams of sugar and the grams of protein that you have in your food. Nothing to do with calories, because not all calories are equal. It's just not. So I tell my clients, I don't even want you counting calories. It is irrelevant. If you are counting the amount of grams of sugar and the amount of grams of protein you're eating, calories is insignificant. It will measure out. So I would like to get everybody out of that. I can have this many calories a day, or yeah, it's a recipe for failure.
And macronutrients are the new trend. Everybody's counting macros. I mean, most people count fat, fat, carbs, and protein. I mean, what do you think of that? You're just and sugar is almost the secondary option, but sugar is a detriment. How would somebody create the formula, their own formula for sugars and proteins? How would they know how much of each to consume?
So I have a formula that I created during my competitive days of, and that was just, trial and error, figuring out roughly you need at least 50% of your body weight in protein. So if you weigh 120 pounds, you need at least 60 grams of protein in a day, not all at one time, but in a day. And when I say not all at one time, I had a client once that, she would tell me she was eating the amount of grams of protein, but she wasn't seeing results. So when I had her fill out a food journal, what I realized is that she wasn't really eating all that much protein throughout the day. And then she would supplement her last meal with a major protein source, but our bodies can't digest X amount of protein. So once you get to, let's say, 30 grams of protein for the average female, your body is just literally, it's going to go to waste. It's not, so you can't consume it all at one time.
And then Tim's bringing up, he says he goes by green, yellow, and red food categories. And Tim, where I'd like to see it clarified. I mean, by red, are you categorizing that as meat, or that's just vegetables? What sources of protein are you utilizing, and are they all plant-based? I mean, that would be interesting to know. I think that it is much more difficult. It's doable, but it is more difficult to bring in protein when it's all plant-based. It's not impossible, but it's much easier, certainly, if you're having some type of animal protein. But of course, that's a personal preference and a choice, and we don't advocate.
So let me talk about that a little bit. I'm not opposed to vegan lifestyle. I get that. But what people don't realize is that although plant protein is good, it's not a complete amino acid. So you're never going to get all of your amino acids from a plant protein. It's just very difficult for your body to consume to get what it needs from plant-based protein. I'm not against the vegan diet. I just feel that we need that animal protein.
And so Brandon is saying 50% of protein in weight. So he's saying he's 420 pounds, give or take. So
okay, so let me rephrase that. So what is your goal weight, Brandon? What's the weight that you're trying to achieve? That's what you need to judge it off of. Not so much what you are right now, but what is your goal weight?
If it's 210 grams of protein is a lot to consume in a day.
That's
that's a lot.
I would say don't exceed probably about 150 grams of protein. As far as eating the rainbow, I firmly agree with that. The more colorful your fruits and vegetables are, the more nutritious they are. And it's crazy, but the greener, the more vibrant the color, the more healthy, the more vitamins that it has for you. So definitely fill your plate with as many colors as possible.
So let's go back to Brandon. And so you're saying 150 grams of protein should be his maximum. What about the sugars? What would be a good gram total for Brandon?
I tend to be a little bit more strict than the average person. Sugars, I personally feel you should be less than 20 to 30 grams of sugar in a complete day. Now that's difficult to do. But when I'm talking about sugars, I'm talking about your simple sugars. So not your complex carbs that you get in sweet potatoes and stuff like that, but just your simple sugars. Keep those under 20 or 30 grams.
But let's say Brandon, obviously it's, he didn't say what his goal weight is, but I'm sure that would be a really drastic transition to be probably, would you start out at 20 to 30 or would you ease into that? What would be our guidance there?
I don't recommend anybody go full force in the beginning because realistically, if your body's in complete shock and you have no energy, you're not going to stick with it. And what good is any diet if you're not going to stick with it? So if it doesn't seem reasonable that you can adopt it for the next 6 months to a year, then yes, definitely ease your way into it so that you're not crashing and burning midday because you don't have the carbs your body is used to consuming. I would encourage you that instead of looking at sugars, look at your complex carbs because although they break down into sugars, they break down a whole lot slower so they don't spike your internal sugar levels, which then come crashing down and leaves you fatigued.
What I often recommend is, before anybody delves into a new eating pattern, is to journal and see what it is, how many grams of whatever you're consuming currently are, and then that's a great benchmark to start to decrease that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because then your body is going to go into shock. Exactly right. So if you're eating 10,000 calories, you're not going to, and we're not talking calories, since you don't, that's not our preferred method. But if you're eating 200 grams of protein and you're going down to, dropping to 150 isn't that dramatic. But if you're dropping, and this is just hypothetical, of course, if you're dropping down to 50, that's going to be a big shock. So I would take a look at the numbers that you currently consume, and then we can start to make a formula based on that and ease your way into it. Because I think that that is when people drop off dramatically, when they drastically change their lifestyle and try to do everything at once, drink a gallon of water, walk 5 miles a day, and consume whatever formula we determine, it's not sustainable, because it's just too much. People are geared. Yeah, it's a shock. And people don't like change. Most people don't like change. And those patterns and all behaviors were rooted in a positive intention, and they served you at some point. So to modify those and to change those unhealthy habits is really drastic, even for your mindset to adjust to and adapt.
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree. So it goes back to what I was saying. If what you're getting ready to do is not something you can foresee doing for the next 6 months to a year, then I would not go full fledged ahead. Adopt it slowly, like Joe was saying. Just slowly adapt. This week I'm going to cut out 10% of the sugars that I eat, or this week I'm going to add 10 grams of protein, and I'm going to add an extra 5 minutes of workout to it. It's not an all or nothing, because we want something that's sustainable, because weight loss is not a program. Weight loss and living a healthy lifestyle is just that. It's a lifestyle. So nothing that we do for 6 months or a year is going to be advantageous if we can't continue it through our lifetime.
So Brandon is saying he'd like to be as close to 250 as he can get, which I certainly think is doable. And I believe in Brandon, and I think he can accomplish anything he sets his mind to. So I expect that's, and once you put that out in the universe, we believe in manifestation. So we're gonna help you manifest it and get to where you want to be.
And Brandon, reach out to me, DM me. I'd love to help you on your journey. Also, water helps with your workout. So water helps the muscles, the connective tissues, the joints to move, like to flow. So it's kind of like that cushioning in our body. It just helps everything. It also prevents your muscle spasms and your cramps that might prevent you from being able to continue the exercise, which I know everybody's has familiar with having that runner's cramp. That's usually due to dehydration.
Now, when we're talking about resistance training, and I know we're not really delving into that this week, what step is that? When are we going to start to incorporate that into the program?
That is step 5.
Okay.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Step 4, grateful movement.
Perfect. And so Brandon is one of our, he's our head of HR here. He's the executive in charge of HR coast to coast, and Tim is on the admin team as well. And Tim is saying, Brandon, I got you. So Brandon has a lot of support out of the gate. We all have them, and I'm looking forward to that. So Brandon's coming with another question. What about protein shakes?
Honestly, especially if you're trying to up your protein intake, sometimes protein shakes is, especially when you live a busy lifestyle, sometimes protein shakes is the only way to go. Now, I would caution you that, for instance, whey protein is a popular product, but that doesn't always sit well with a lot of people's digestive systems. So you might have to go into a more vegan type of protein rather than whey protein. But yes, protein shakes is, when you're trying to meet that goal every day, sometimes it's inevitable, especially if you live a busy lifestyle. Now, ideally, we want to get all of our macros from actual real food. And obviously, protein shakes is not a real food. But if you're just trying to meet your daily requirement and, you eat 4 meals a day and one of them is a protein shake, yeah, absolutely not a problem. Not a problem.
But again, I think there's a big disparity in protein shakes and how much sugar is in them. So you want to be mindful of that as well.
Yeah. any protein shake, you want to have less than about 5 grams of carbs, because after all, it's a protein shake. It's not a carb shake. So the other reason for that is because let's say you get a vanilla protein shake. You can always add fruit and other things to it to give you your carb content so that it is a complete meal. But if you already have a protein shake that has carbs in it, it pretty much eliminates anything that you can add to it.
So since we're on water and we're discussing protein, and I have tried this myself, have you seen the new, and they're not that new, they've been around for a year or so, the protein waters? And what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I have not. I have not.
Yeah, so there are a lot of waters on the market now, and I've tried them, and they're, it's an acquired taste just like regular water, but some of them have up to 20 grams of protein in one 20-ounce bottle of water. So that'd be something, maybe we'll look into it this week and do some research and get back, because I've been curious about that myself.
Yeah, I don't like to advise. If I can't look at a label and really see the ingredients, I don't really like to give people advice, because it could be completely healthy, but it also can be made of complete crap. I mean, let's be real here. So
Right.
I would, if somebody could send me a picture of the ingredients, I'd be happy to take a look at it. I personally haven't seen it, but I'm also not one that ventures outside the box. Like, I know what my body needs, and I just don't go with the extra stuff. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to getting my macros in. So I just stick to the basic stuff, but I would be interested in learning more about that. Absolutely. I mean, if you can kill two birds with one stone, drinking the water and adding the protein. That sounds like no brainer to me. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm definitely going to look into that. Absolutely.
And they're fairly low in I don't know about the sugars, but I know that they're fairly low in calories, which would mean a reflection that they're low in sugars as well. So I can't recall what all of the macros are, but yeah, I'll look into them. There are numerous brands, and I forgot all of their names because about 2 years ago, before COVID, I was consuming them very rarely because it's difficult for me to get my protein in sometimes. But I didn't love them, so I didn't. But they have different flavors, coconut, and I believe they're flavored naturally. So I'll take a look at that this week, and I'll send you the labels. I'll see where I can find them again. Yeah, I'm interested to show. So Tim is saying something, and it's very true. I dislike drinking water, and I have to force myself. But I will say I'm in a much better place than I was. I typically drink. I try to drink a gallon a day. I at least try to get in 80 to 100 ounces, but it's tough. I mean, there are times I have to add something. I'm a big fan of the Mio because it also has a little bit of caffeine. Before I work out, I like to put that in. I like that more than the pre-workout drinks because I think that the taste is better. And I don't typically drink caffeine. I never drink. Well, what do you think about caffeine? I think that caffeine is a great pre-workout, but as far as 12 cups of coffee a day or whatever, I don't know how beneficial it is.
Caffeine is actually not bad for you. In low doses, caffeine is not bad for you. It's a stimulant. It actually increases motivation. So it's not bad for you. What I caution people is if the first thing you do when you get out of bed is you reach for the caffeine, that's a problem. We need to be able to get up and get moving before we're pumping our system full of, caffeinated drinks or, processed energy, basically fake energy. I recommend when you get up in the morning, drink at least 16 ounces of water. Believe it or not, guys, water is actually a stimulant. Water does give you energy. It's just not going to be that instant energy that you get from caffeine or Coke or coffee or something. It's not going to be instant. But if you continue to consume the water, it is actually a stimulant and will give you more energy. And if let's say you're used to consuming a gallon, for example, I'm used to consuming about a gallon of water, but here in the past week or two, I've dropped down to about 90 to 100 ounces, which doesn't seem like a very big disparity, but I've also noticed a dip in my energy levels, like not drastic, but just not that get up and go, that that I'm used to having. So it's something that it is an acquired taste. And if you're new to the water, add whatever healthy ingredients you can to make that taste more flavorable to you so that you can get in the habit of drinking the water. If that's Crystal Light, when I first started drinking water, I lived on Crystal Light, that pink lemonade, I lived on it. So it's better than not drinking water at all. Absolutely.
So Tim is saying he uses coffee, and I don't know if that's a misspelling. I assume it is. Coffee grinds for his caffeine before a workout. It's called grinds, coffee in a pouch.
I've never
That,
heard of that.
I haven't heard of that either. Is it? I wonder if it's Tim will have to give us a little bit more info. Is it cold? I assume it's cold. I'm not sure. And is it the actual grinds or a liquid
I mean,
drink?
when you say that, I'm thinking about like coffee itself, like eating coffee. It just doesn't even sound appealing to me. But
Yeah, that seems it seems odd. But Tim's Tim is in great shape, and he works out routinely, runs I believe it's 6 miles a day. So
you go, Tim.
yeah, so
I hate to run. So.
yeah, I don't like to run either, but he's all over it. So I'm interested to learn more about that. I don't care for coffee. I shouldn't say that. I've actually never tried it. I've never tried coffee, and so I don't know if I want to start with a pouch of grinds. I'll have to give that some thought.
I used to be an avid coffee drinker. I had at least a cup every morning, and when I competed in my first show, I can't remember why I was not allowed to have coffee. I would guess that it was probably not the coffee, but because coffee in general, guys, is not unhealthy for you. It's really not, black coffee, but how many people drink black coffee? You know what I'm saying? It's not coffee that's so unhealthy. It's all of the things that we're adding to the coffee to make it taste better. That is so bad. So yeah.
And so Justin's asking, does genetics help in losing weight? I think that I'll let you go ahead, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
So that's a touchy subject. So I often get clients come to me saying, well, my whole family is fat, and, we're big bone, which I've never seen a fat skeleton personally, but we have this, and I don't think this just goes for weight loss. I think it comes to, cancer or all these things that we feel like we have this genetic predisposition for it. But if you check the CDC, even cancer, it's only a 3% chance that you're getting that genetically. So it's more accurate to say that if you are accustomed to living a lifestyle where you are eating foods on a consistent basis that are not good for you, then yes, you're going to feel like, well, my whole family is fat, and it's going to be difficult for me to lose weight. So although there are some genetics that are going to be, it's going to be easier to shed the weight, I don't really feel like that's a limiting factor. I think that's a limiting belief that a lot of people put in their head as kind of like a justification or an excuse as to why this diet or this workout program was unsuccessful. It's more of a limiting belief.
I agree. And I think that oftentimes it's the environment that you're and the people that you surround yourself with. Families may tend to think that, they have a history of obesity, but it's because their lifestyle is passed down from generation to generation. And that's really where it comes into play. So I think the lifestyle is an acquired, which is not a technical term, but acquired genetics. Or
I actually have a story that illustrates that. So I had a client come to me, and she had been struggling with her weight her whole life, and she kept talking about how her whole family was fat. Well, come to find out, she's actually adopted.
Oh, that's funny.
So she didn't reveal this for 3 to 6 months. And when I found this out, I'm like, whoa. You had this limiting belief that your family was making you, I'm saying you couldn't lose weight and you're adopted. It's not even part of your genetics. So it definitely lends that nature versus nurture argument. Yeah. It's more of the people, the quote of you are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So, the 5 people are going to affect your paycheck, but they're also going to affect your waistline. How many times have you started a diet and you go to the office and you've got your sack lunch because it's all and they're like, oh, this isn't going to hurt you. You just eat it one time, and it's only one time to make you fall off the wagon. So it only takes one apple to ruin the entire cart. So it is way more your environment, which is why people tend to flock to gyms, because the environment is everybody's trying to get healthy.
Agreed. And I think that attitude is contagious. When you're at the gym, that's why, and we've spoken about this before, and I'm sure Tim will agree. And I'm not sure, I believe that he runs in some organized races, but when you go to a 5K, I mean, the runners are so pumped, and the streets are lined with I don't know if they're necessarily fans, but I would say supporters. You have volunteers handing out the water. I mean, that's a great community. But I see that, in my spinning class. I mean, the community is so tight knit, and it's such a positive experience because they're all positive people who are adopting a healthy lifestyle. And I think they're similar to the people that we spend time with. Whoops. Oh boy.
Well, and I have talked. I'm not a runner myself. In fact, you won't catch me dead running in a marathon. It's just not happening. But it's just not my cup of tea. But a lot of people would never compete in a bodybuilding competition, so I get it. But I have talked to a lot of marathon runners that say that it's those people on the sidelines when they're hitting that 20-mile marker, and that they feel like they're getting ready to hit a plateau. It's those people on the sidelines that give them the motivation to keep going. So it's totally our environment and the people we're surrounding ourselves with.
So agreed. So I got so animated, I knocked my phone onto my keyboard. So I want to pull up Justin's comment, and that last one, Chris, where it says the volunteers at 5K races are fat people sometimes. And I think that goes to the other piece of we certainly don't judge anybody, and people have lifestyles based on things and mindsets that we know nothing about. I think that we accept all people. And the other piece of our program is that we want people to accept themselves where they are. Of course, we want them to make improvements in their life and become healthier, but we have no judgment here. Our goal is to help anybody with limiting beliefs. And I think that I want to be very, very, very emphatic that, we don't prejudge anybody, and we're here to help and bring value to anybody, regardless of their physical condition or our mental side.
Say that, chances are that although they may be overweight and they don't have the physique that the runners do, but who's to say that you runners are not their motivation? They're showing up to support you because you're motivating them to get their life and their health in order. So again, I don't prejudge. I mean, obviously I want everybody to be healthy and feel great, but everybody's on their own timetable, and I don't want to force anybody into it. So yeah, I mean, they might be overweight, but you are their inspiration. So just love them anyways. Love them that they're there to support you.
Agreed. And we want them to love themselves where they're at. We want everybody to love themselves where they're at, because I think that that's the starting point of really changing your life when you're at a point of self-love.
I would like to talk about that a little bit more because, when I started my health and fitness journey, I don't think that I really loved myself. I think that I was desperately trying to get that physique that from a 14-year-old little girl, I was indoctrinated to believe that we should all have. The models on the screens or the cover screens, and they're all airbrushed, by the way, so they're not even real. So, when I finally achieved that physique, the fulfillment didn't last very long because I wasn't still in love with myself, like internally in love. I loved the image staring back at me in the mirror, but I had a negative setback that had to do with work, and it just brought me on a downhill spiral because I had never addressed that own inner love, like that self-love. I'd never really got there. So I'd love to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So the same, I had a very similar trajectory and path, and I still struggle with it sometimes. I think that I'm always going to be a work in progress. I have some conditioning, but I think that embracing what makes you unique is the first step. We all have unique qualities, and we all have strengths. And when you start to look at those things, most people, their internal dialogue, we're quick to point out the negative things. I could say, I don't like my hair. I don't like my whatever. I don't like my elbow. I don't know what it is that I don't like, but everybody has something they don't like about themselves, or even something that they do. Oh, I'm not as caring as I'd like to be. I'm not as intelligent as I want to be. But then when I take a look at, and those things aren't true. I think that I'm very intelligent, but I'm just saying those things hypothetically. But when you look at what you are good at. So I'm very compassionate. I'm very empathetic. I'm very supportive, and I'm generous beyond measure. I have a great, deep capacity for friendship and love. And then you start to look at those things, and those certainly are things that when you project out into the world, they're really a benefit and they bring value to people. So I think everybody has deficits and there's no one's perfect. And I think that's a starting point. Embrace the things that make you unique, because those are the things that make you special.
One thing that I have learned in my own journey to love myself is that we have to watch our self-talk, guys. The things that we say to ourselves, we would never say to our best friend or someone we care about. So why do we say them to ourselves? And when we say them to ourselves over and over and over again, they're sinking into our subconscious, and our subconscious is far more powerful than our conscious mind. So we just need to watch that inner talk, that self-talk. If you wouldn't say it to a friend or a family member, then don't say it to yourself. You don't deserve it. You are your biggest fan, but you're also your biggest critic. So you're always going to see the negative points. Absolutely.
So Justin is saying that he judges a lot, and you're a young person, Justin, but I think you wanted to take a look at that and really take a look at yourself, because you don't like to be judged. And we've spoken about it, actually. You don't like to be judged, and you don't want to judge anybody else. And I do want to get back to self-love, but I don't know if you can see the comments, but Tim Fielder's calling you out, Amber. He's doing a mock.
What's this PT test tomorrow?
You should join. I mean, Tim, I don't know if you want to be. Is it all right with you for Amber to beat you publicly? I don't know. You might have to think about that.
Let's not set the stage for that or anything.
I think you might be able to take Tim, Amber. I honestly do.
What exactly is involved in this PT test? Let's clarify that before I sign up for this. Well,
Tim is in Tim, I don't know. I want to speak to your military service, so you can speak to that. I don't want to mess it up because it's so important and so valuable and a great contribution. So I believe he's in the National Guard, but give us the scoop, Tim. I know you're going to beat me, so I'm staying out of it, but I'll pretend I'm doing it. I'll do a mock of the mock. That's what I can do. Sit-ups, push-ups, and a 1.5-mile run. The planks. I got the sit-ups, the push-ups, and the planks. The 5-mile run, not happening. Well, I don't run unless somebody's got a gun to my head. I'm telling you. And let me explain why. So when I was younger, 1.5. 1.5. I can do 1.5. Okay. So the sit-ups and the push-ups, I can do that too. The planks, I got that. When I was younger, I was a cheerleader, and anytime that we did anything wrong, she made us run. So for some reason, I still have this running attached to negative consequences, and I have never been able to break that mindset. On top of that, I'm flat-footed, so I don't run properly at all. I think I exert far more energy than the average person, and I'm pretty sure I look retarded when I'm doing it too. So Tim, how much of all of these do we have to do? Because I do strength training, not on vacation, but I certainly do it 5 or 6 times a week. I can muster up a 1.5-mile run. What's our time limit, and how much do we have to do? How long do we have to complete this? Can we take 6 or 7 hours? So what's the plan? And I agree, Justin. I think Amber's got him too. I think that's a claim to fame. The coast to coast battle of the sexes. There you go, Justin. You're looking for a battle of the sexes. Here it goes. This should be fun. That should be fun. All right, we're waiting for him to get back to us. But what else do we have to say about self-love? I think that you really want to also set, particularly for people who want to make some changes. I think you start out by setting some realistic goals. You don't want to say I want to lose 50 pounds by Tuesday. 1 minute for sit-ups and push-ups, 50 sit-ups, 56 push-ups, 11.12 minute run. Yeah, that's tough. So is it the same? For women? Are the same standards for women? We help to pull out our gender as a crutch, but it might help since we're novices. And 50 sit-ups, we might be able to do that. 56 push-ups, probably not going to happen in a minute. And the run, possibly, but I can't even tell you the last time that I've ran 1.5 miles. So I don't know if I could do it in that amount of time, but I'm up for 11 minutes. I think that there's different standards for us. I'm going to write this down. 1 minute for the sit-ups. Well, and could be a goal for us. We may not be able to do it tomorrow, but we might be able to do it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So so that could be a challenge for Amber and myself, and I'm certainly going to work on it. I'm actually in a push-up challenge right now with Justin, and he challenges me and reaches out to me every day and asks me how many I did. He's doing pretty well. I think he knows the stats. I think we're tied at this point, but we're not. We're not at 56 in a minute, so we got some work to do. Negative punishment is running sounds so familiar. So I think running,
military, so I can see that being
and running is also an acquired. And the older you get too, I think there's some detriments to your body. I mean, running is difficult on the knees. It's actually difficult on my toes, on my toenails, because my second toe is a little bit longer than my first. And so when I run, that's really why I gave it up. It became problematic. Now I actually cut out the toe box of my shoe, and that's what the podiatrist told me to do. So I have gotten back into running a little bit. So I might be able to do it. And I had already told Tim I was going to take it back up, and I'm doing a little bit, but I don't know if I'm at his standard yet. But now I feel like there's a goal on the table for myself and for Amber, and I'd love to do that. So what's up, ladies? I believe that's probably Adam. Hi, Adam. Thanks for tuning in. We're talking about Tim threw out a challenge to us. It's going to be the coast to coast battle of the sexes. You might want to be his partner. Could be Adam and Tim versus Amber and Joann. I think that would be a good starting point, and we'd have to build up. I don't know if we're going to get to 5 or 6 miles in running, because we're not big runners, but 62 miles for July on running.
Yeah,
good for you, Tim. Yeah. Well, that's Tim's. That's where Tim is at today. But
okay.
Yeah. So we're getting off topic, but it is fun and exciting to talk about that. I love having a goal.
One other thing that I want to, I just did a video about this. I haven't posted it yet, but one thing that I think helps with the self-love is that we spend so much of our time working on our weaknesses instead of working on our strengths. So what I find is so many people spend the mass majority of their time trying to improve their weaknesses. And I get it. That's what we're trained to do. But we need to invert that 80-20 rule and spend 80% of our time bettering our strengths and 20% of our time on our weaknesses, because how draining is it when you're dreading work and you're not excited about it? You know, it just kind of loses your fatigue, as opposed to things that you're good at where you can feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day.
I agree. And I think too, another great way, because sometimes you have to, and I've said this before, fake it until you make it. But I think that, again, surround yourself, participate in things that you find enjoyable and that move you towards your goal. One of the greatest pieces of advice that I've ever been given is, once you identify your goal, just do one thing a day to move yourself closer to that goal, whatever it may be. And we speak about water. We're speaking about water today. So drink one more glass of water today than you did yesterday. Or if you're talking about walking, walk for our movement in general, just move for 15 minutes more today than you did yesterday. Just do, even if it's a professional goal, any type of goal. My advice is always to do one thing that's going to move you closer to where you want to be a day.
One other thing about the self-love is that, keep in mind, guys, we are not competing with anybody else. You're only competing with the person that you were the day before. So as long as you are, I follow the Kaizen principle, which is just to be 1% better every single day. I'm not trying to be better than Joe or Tim or Justin. I'm just trying to be better than the person that I was before. And as long as I achieve that, then it's satisfaction.
I agree. And I think if you need support, find support. And for instance, even us, I mean, here's a forum that's new and out there, but there are all types of forums that people can reach out and get you and I are always willing to support anybody. They can private message us or reach out to us, and of course, reach out to the network. But there's always somebody in your life. I think people get into the mindset, and you hear it all the time, there's nobody to support me, but think about it. There's somebody in your life who can support you. Nobody, always, never. Those are words that really don't hold value, because they're absolutes and really most likely not true. If you can dig down deep. And there are so many people who are even strangers who are willing to support others. There's all kindness out there.
Keep in mind that when you choose to up-level your life, so whether that's your fitness, your finances, your career, whatever it's going to be, when you choose to take your life to the next level and other people don't agree, it's not because they don't think it's a good idea. It's because you're holding up a mirror to them and they're not really ready to self-reflect and look at where they are and take their life to the next level. So just because they say that's a crazy idea or you'll never make it, it just means they're not ready to go there themselves yet. So I agree. Sometimes the people that are immediately surrounding us are not going to be on our cheerleading team, guys. It's very unfortunate, but there are people out there. Sometimes you have to reach out to strangers, but you know what? Sometimes strangers are even better than your family. Sometimes they're even more supportive. You know, I heard a quote once that said, "The blood of the coven is thicker than the water of the womb," which means the blood of the family you choose is thicker than the water you're born into. So blood doesn't make you family. It just, you know, it's just DNA. So reach out to, I mean, I know I've acquired with Joe as part of it that we have our own little family that, I mean, we inspire each other and we motivate each other every day. So it doesn't have to be blood. It doesn't have to be people that are immediately surrounding you right now. Reach out to whoever you can, whether it's on Facebook or Clubhouse or whatever it is. There are people out there that want to help you.
And that's exactly true. I mean, I know that we have our Forbes family, and Amber and I are part of that. But the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network, we're a tight knit group as well. And we were strangers. At least I was a stranger to them. I don't know, 3 months ago, and now I consider them some of my closest allies and friends. And Adam I want to call up Adam's point exactly. He doesn't want to be like anybody else. He wants to be the first me, and that's a great attitude to have. And he's a leader. Adam is a leader. He's one of our leaders, and he certainly demonstrates that on a daily basis. And I think that that's exactly right. Strangers are the families. Sometimes strangers are the families that we choose. And they're just even here. I'm going to say this, and I hope none of my family's watching, but you know, there's been some. I'm on vacation, and I've been made to feel guilty about, you know, doing a show or we're taking the class on the side, and I thought to myself, you know. And of course, they are my supporters, and they're concerned that I'm missing out on the vacation. But if I'm saying this is something that I want to do, and it's a commitment that I have, then just support that. You know, don't give me the passive aggressive suggestions. And I'm sitting beachside plenty, so I think that, you know, support comes in all different forms. And I think a lot of times when you're closest to you, people don't support you. They don't understand what you're doing, and I think a lot of it is that people don't understand what.
From their own belief system.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of like if you get this great business idea and you go tell your best friend, they're like, well, that's crazy. That's never going to work. They're just telling you that based on their own beliefs. So based on their own conditioning they grew up with, the own meanings of the stories and the failures they've had, they're telling you that. So they tell you that, you get disheartened about it and you don't take action. And then 6 months later, somebody has that same idea and it's a huge success. So
exactly.
Just because they don't agree doesn't mean that they can't see the vision. That's okay. That's
okay. And that brings up a point. You know, I'm into the NLP and communication, and something that I found is very valuable when you understand this, that communication isn't what you're saying, it's the way the person is receiving it. So effective communication, you can say what you want over and over and over again, and you'll see this in many times in your life. If the person on the other end isn't understanding and receiving that information the way that you wanted them to, or it's intended, then your communication methods need to be modified. So we're almost at the end of the hour. We have 3 minutes left. So I think this is a great conversation. We covered a lot more ground than we thought that we were going to, actually. So how do we want to wrap it up? What do you think? Are we done with the hydration piece? I mean, self-love.
We covered that pretty good.
Self-love, we're going to talk about every week because it's so vital to every single thing that we do, and positivity and the way that you put yourself out into the world are all certainly important. And let's take a look and see if we have any other comments. Justin's got a lot on there. Communications, he's talking about communication. We want to thank everybody for their participation. We have Brandon, Tim, Adam, Justin. Oh, thank you, Adam. I would
Yes,
definitely
thank
want to bring
you.
this up. Joann, we are so happy for you to be an important person in this network. And thank you, Amber, for joining. Love the show. So thank you. I mean, I don't know if we can end on a better note than that. That's a perfect ending,
I'm
Adam,
super
and we
excited about
appreciate
this
it.
new family I'm gaining.
You're right. It is a family, and you're gonna fall in love with them like I have. So I'm gonna let you say goodbye, Amber. Say goodbye to everybody. Thanks
Bye,
for all of
guys,
your
and we'll see you
tips.
next week.
And we'll see you next week. But of course, as always, we like to close it out. We'd like to close it out by thanking Chris, our producer behind the scenes, and Chris's new name is Chris P. Bacon. So, so Chris P., you can play us out. Thanks everybody. It was a great night. We love this show. Thanks, guys.